Hey, and welcome to the Leftover Culture Review, the only review show on the internet that's 100% unbiased, completely, totally, truthfully factual, really well researched, and hosted by myself. I'm super duper eloquent, so I hope you stick around. Today we'll be talking all about the Sega Dreamcast VMU. Now, I never really had batteries in my VMU before. That little squeal you hear when you first boot up your Dreamcast, that could nearly be the startup jingle for me. But I went ahead and put batteries in my VMU, so we're going to be checking it out on this episode of the Leftover Culture Review. Less powerful than a wristwatch, probably a little bit more powerful than a calculator, the Sega Dreamcast VMU. By today's standards, the VMU is severely underpowered. By the standards of the time, though, it was still super underpowered, but there was a certain charm that went along with the really simple games and applications and things you could do with the Dreamcast VMU. Effectively, this gave the Dreamcast a second screen, and there were some really innovative ideas around how to use this device. So I really wanted to have a look and see what it could do. I've got a few spare batteries, so we've got about a good 10 minutes of battery life left to power through this review. Let's check it out. Alright, so look, I was exaggerating a little bit about the 10-minute thing. The Dreamcast VMU batteries will last a couple of weeks. The mini games are going to suck the batteries dry a bit quicker, but you're not really going to use this all that often for gaming on the go. If you're just using it as a second screen while you're playing your games, you plug it straight into your controller, you don't even need batteries. So it's a pretty cool feature regardless how you want to use it. And saying that, we've got games like Code Veronica and Carrier, both survival horror games right there on the Dreamcast. They use the VMU as a way to show your health meter. So effectively, they're taking this information that would normally be up on your game screen and putting it on the VMU, something in your hand that you can easily check, but it's not taking you away from becoming engaged with the game with all this like extra on-screen information. And rounding out those survival horror games, we've got D2. Now, instead of a health bar, you got a compass. Another really simple, effective way to use that really small screen on the VMU. It's a shame I could never really read a compass in real life, but works really well for D2. In Sonic Shuffle, your cards and items can be viewed through the VMU screen. Again, that's keeping them safe from the prying eyes of the competition, providing you can find someone to play with and then explain the rules to and hope they're polite enough not to ground you for tricking them into playing Sonic Shuffle. Man. Okay, so plugged into a controller, the VMU acts as a second screen, a really innovative idea I wish more games got on board with, but the games that were doing things with the second screen were doing some really cool stuff. But once you take the VMU out of the controller and you start plugging batteries into it, you can actually open up a really cool little world of VMU mini games. And dudes, it's a vicious cycle. Once you start putting batteries into your VMU and you start playing those mini games, you'll be going through a lot more batteries, to the point where I even had to ask for a pocket money pay evaluation. So if I wanted to start off with the Sonic Adventure series of games, this had probably the most memorable VMU mini game built straight into it, the Chao Adventure. It's the game that probably stigmatized the VMU as severely power hungry, but probably one of the best reasons to check out the VMU today. When I reviewed the Sonic Adventure games for the Dreamcast, I literally glossed over the Chao Garden segment and I tacked on a short reference to the Chao Adventure minigame at the very end. Some people didn't care, some people cared a lot. The Chao stuff just didn't feel important to the reasons why I made that review about Sonic Adventure at the time. But man, once you finish that main quest, the Chao Garden is like the single biggest reason to keep booting up the game, going back and checking it out. That's where all the replay value is. Both Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 had the Chao Garden. It's a place where you can hang out and raise the little guys or torment them. Pair them up with animals to help boost their stats, watch them grow, evolve and start competing with each other. The goal with the Chaos is to raise them like a virtual pet and then race them. You can do it all in-game. It's actually a really complex system of breeding, raising, and combining attributes while your Chao is evolving, and you can spend a lot of time here working everything out. It sounds like a goddamn homework assignment, but thankfully for dudes like me on the move, super popular, always have somewhere to be, you can take your Chaos with you using the VMU. You're probably thinking that I'm a bit too cool to be playing with and caring for little virtual pets. And you'd normally be pretty right, but the adventure itself is such a random trip that I did get a few laughs out of it. Sonic Team managed to cram a lot of personality into this device. You get to meet the characters from the games as events and fights and mini games, and by the end of the trip, your Chao should have gained a few stat points. And honestly, the game works so well for me because it's so simple. You boot the game up on your VMU and you leave it. It's a lot like a Tamagotchi. You wait for it to beep and then you attend to it, but for the most part it's just running there in the background. You can probably understand now why you need a few extra batteries. I honestly thought I was doing it wrong, but you just have to leave it on. It's going to eat through your battery life. You're only going to get like a week out of a battery, but that's the price to pay for your Chao. So the Tamagotchi angle on a few of these VMU mini games works really well. One of my favorite examples of this has to be in Zombie Revenge. Zombie Revenge is basically Sega going back to the House of the Dead franchise and making it into a 3D beat 'em up. I'm a massive fan of 3D beat 'em ups, and this arcade port on the Dreamcast brought everything the arcade had with it, including a few extra modes. So we had like a boss rush mode and we had a versus mode. My favorite thing about the game was how they utilized the VMU, a really innovative way, but you could actually load characters from the game onto your VMU. From that point, you could actually train your characters on the device itself to bring them back into the game later on to play some of these modes with those characters that you've trained. So for an arcade game, they really went that extra mile to bring something innovative to it when they brought it over to the Dreamcast, and I really appreciate the effort. So you'll be feeding them food you collect in the game to build their stamina, and you'll be playing the mini games to build their stats. There's only two mini games here, Zombie Fishing and Zombie Down, but they both work so well on the VMU. They're super simple, just like everything else, but they've got that zombie spin to it, and it's built into one of my favorite Dreamcast games already, so I was a big fan of how they treated the VMU. And finally, how about a few non-Tamagotchi style games? So Power Stone for the Dreamcast is an amazing multiplayer game. In my personal opinion, Power Stone 2 is the best reason to own 4 different Dreamcast controllers. Power Stone is an awesome game that's either going to bring friends really close together or totally pull them apart, but once your mates go home and it's just you and the game, it's going to get pretty boring. If you wanted to squeeze an extra 15 minutes of fun out of here, you might want to check out the VMU minigames. For the original Power Stone, there's 3 unlockable minigames right there on the VMU. Firstly, Falcons Aerial Adventure, where you pilot Falcon's plane, and I'll be honest, this is a really awesome example of an action game right there on the VMU. It's a shoot 'em up and it works well. It's super simple, but it works. This has got to be my favorite one from the lot. Wanted to hit it first because it's the most worthwhile checking out. And thankfully, Falcon's Aerial Adventure is the first VMU minigame you're going to unlock. By the time you're unlocking IAME, shuriken training and gun rocks, gun slots, you've collected all the medals, you've done everything you've had to in the game, you're probably finished with these mini games as well. So they're not going to hold your attention for too long. They're kind of cool to check out. It's kind of cool to see what the VMU could do, but the gaming experience is super minimal. And you might be kind of bummed to learn that there's no mini games hidden here on Power Stone 2. They basically give you an application on the VMU that lets you trade items and essences with friends who also play the game. It sounds kind of lame. I wasn't that interested in checking it out. I suspect you guys are too cool to want to check it out as well. So moving straight along. So I had fun with the VMU, pulling out a few of my favorite games to show you guys, but to really enjoy a device like the VMU, you kind of need to have the Dreamcast as well as the games to play it. Thankfully, if you are keen to see what the VMU can do, Dreamcast or not, I seriously recommend getting the VMU Tools disc called Dream Explorer. So look, whether you boot up that tools disk either through your Dreamcast or on your PC via an emulator, it gives you access to all those VMU minigames, and there are a bunch of save states that you can take advantage of as well. The disk itself does have its own built-in VMU emulator, so you don't even need to have a device to check out the games. It's a really good tools disk. There's a lot of games that I just haven't had the opportunity to cover in this one. Some really worthwhile ones like Sega Rally had a little VMU minigame called Sega GT, as well as Skies of Arcadia had Pinto's Quest. There are some really noteworthy, innovative VMU minigames out there. If you know of any, or maybe if we should do a follow-up review in the future, let me know in the comments what you think. Word of warning though, the Zombie Revenge minigames didn't work via that emulator. I had to actually install them on my VMU to check them out. So for all the hype, it was super easy to dismiss this as just another memory card. I remember the hype for the Pocket Station, all the conversations we were having at school around being able to play your favorite games on the go through the Pocket Station, plug it into your system at home, load up all your data, the advantages of having something like a Pocket Station. But I never heard much about the Dreamcast VMU, and I really wanted to give it a little bit of time in the limelight. Make no mistake, after this review, I'm probably never going to look at another VMU minigame again. I'm just not that committed to playing games on something this small. But I think it's got a lot of charm, and what they were doing, using it as a second screen within games, was still really innovative at the time. So I do really appreciate what the Sega Dreamcast could bring to gaming. So I just wanted to finish this whole review by saying, guys, congratulations. I really appreciate the fact that you watched a whole episode about the Dreamcast VMU. It's not the most exciting device in the world, but I really appreciate you sticking through it with me. I also wanted to point out that the shirt I am wearing is from the Leftover Culture Review store. This is the crawling eye that lost his contact lens while destroying the city. It's a design of mine. I've wanted to start really pushing the Leftover Culture Review store because I don't like the idea of Patreon. I don't like asking for money, but if I can provide something that I think is cool, like I wanted to make these shirts because I wanted to wear them. It's all through a service called Redbubble. So I upload my artwork and they can stick it on a range of different products, whether it's like iPhone cases, bed sheets, t-shirts, even stickers and posters and stuff like that. So I'm uploading my artwork through there, putting it all up through the Leftover Culture Review store. If you wanted to support the show, it would mean a lot to me if that's how you chose to do it. If there was something cool that you needed or you wanted for your games room, or for a gift for your grandmother, like if there's her birthday coming up, or next Christmas, or even an Easter gift, get your grandmother a very cool retro video game themed cup. But anyway, the Leftover Culture Review store is available, it's up, it's operating. There's some stuff that I would wear on it, so I really appreciate you guys going over to check it out. I will see you next time with more Leftover Culture. Stay tuned.